Hello Superset Maniacs, welcome to a special video celebrating the 4th anniversary of the Supersetman YouTube channel. On July 27, 2020, I embarked on this journey with big dreams and you guys have dreamed big with me. I couldn't be more grateful for this beautiful journey so far. Whether you like what I'm doing, dislike it, agree or disagree with me, or whether this is your first time hearing about Supersetman or you're a long-time fan, I have one main goal: to make this amazing sport more visible and widespread. And why not? Make a buck along the way. For this special occasion, we have a unique video. My all-time favorite bodybuilder Phil "The Gift" Heath showcasing all 7 of his Mr. Olympia wins, posing side by side in all 8 mandatory poses perfectly synced. If you're curious about how I did this, check out Supersetman archive on both YouTube and Instagram. I upload daily videos of your favorite bodybuilders' 8 mandatory routines, perfectly synced, so if you put side by side any 2 videos on the archive, they will be in perfect sync with each other. Since I already had footage of Phil Heath from 2011 to 2017, I simply put them together side by side. Follow Supersetman archive on Instagram or YouTube or both. Any content creator who wanna use these videos for their own comparisons are free to do so. Also, make sure to follow my main Instagram profile @thesupersetman, where I upload daily short comparisons that have become very popular, garnering hundreds of thousands of views per upload. I also upload similar comparisons in landscape mode on the Supersetman Blitz Matchups YouTube channel, which I'm hoping to monetize soon. We already have over 700 subscribers there. Supersetman is slowly becoming a franchise and I couldn't do it without you, so thank you. Now, back to the actual video. Let's see what we can learn by examining all of Phil's 7 Olympia winning physiques posing side by side, starting with the front double biceps pose. As expected, his first 3 wins from 2011 to 2013 stand out because of his flawless midsection. During these years, Phil could be considered a near-perfect bodybuilder, arguably the closest ever. It's worth noting that even though his waist looked good in all 3 years, it was at its best in 2011 and slightly worse in 2013. But while his midsection declined, everything else improved. He became bigger and fuller. However, in 2014, everything changed. He lost detail in his waist and developed a noticeable distension, likely due to his well-known hernia issues. In 2015, he addressed the hernia. While this improvement may not be as obvious in the front double biceps pose, it will become apparent throughout this video. His midsection looked great that year, making this version underrated and deserving to be compared to his first 3 wins. Then in 2016 and 2017, and later in 2018, when he lost the Olympia for the same reason, we entered the era of bubble gut Phil Heath. The distension is evident even in the front double biceps. Despite this, aside from his waist, everything else was bigger, fuller and drier in those last 2 years, which is really a pity. So in this pose, 2011 is the best, while 2017 is the worst, which tells you all you need to know about his story in all the front poses, not only the front double. So it's basically the same story with the front lat spread. 2011 is by far the best because his midsection looked the best by far. 2013 and 2015 overall look better than 2011 aside from the waist, but the waist wasn't a problem. It simply wasn't as defined as in 2011. 2014, 2016 and especially 2017 looked awful, I would say. Phil Heath may be my favorite bodybuilder, but just as I praise him when he deserves it, I'm also his biggest critic when he looks bad, and he did in the instances I just mentioned. Next is the side chest pose, one of Phil's strongest poses, though it's often criticized for his side most muscular execution. Personally, I don't have an issue with that, but in 2014, for example, he turned too much to the front indeed. Unfortunately, we don't have the best footage for 2016, but in my opinion, 2016 and 2017 are where he looked the best in this pose. He was the biggest, fullest and driest with muscle maturity that further complemented his look. Overall, he was a powerhouse in this pose throughout his reign, with the small exception of 2014, where I believe he had an execution miscalculation, pulling his front arm too far back. Back double biceps is arguably the pose that helped Phil win all his Olympias. He was invincible in this pose throughout his 7-year reign. You could say his back got grainier over the years, but it was a trade-off with the freshness and fullness of his initial years. One major improvement by the end of his reign was in his lower body. His glutes, hams and calves were always world-class, but from 2016 to 2017 his hamstrings looked simply spectacular, arguably the best hamstrings of all time. I don't think there is a worse look in this pose. If you want to nitpick, maybe 2014, when the stress from competing against Kai Green affected his overall quality, but even then his back double biceps looked flawless. However, I prefer his 2011 execution when he didn't lean too far back. I understand why he did that later to hide his narrow shoulders, but for this pose, he didn't need to since he looked so good in 2011, but that's just my opinion. The Christmas trees, baby please, always looked incredible for Phil. But let's check out the back lat spread pose, where the differences are more obvious than in the previous pose. 2017 clearly stands out as the best. It's incredible how his back looked that year. His back lat spread always had a 3D effect with deep muscle density reminiscent of armor, but in 2017, he took that look to a whole new level. 2016 was impressive too, but 2017 was even better. Despite his narrow back, nobody had his level of muscle density and detail in the back lat spread, which arguably makes it the best of all time, despite the narrowness. 2013 doesn't really do him justice here, because we know from the pre-judging pictures that he looked quite impressive. If you want to nitpick, 2011 may look the least impressive, along with 2014 for the aforementioned reasons. Just like in the back double biceps, his back lat spread was a pose in which he was invincible throughout his reign. However, it's more obvious than in the back double that his back lat spread became better every year both in the upper and lower body. Next is the side triceps, another strong pose for Phil. Actually scrap that, all poses were strong for Phil aside from maybe 2 of the front poses. Phil's thick arms and shoulders combined with his overall 3D fullness made him a powerhouse in this pose. His thick triceps and crazy hanging hamstring were some of his signatures. Now, since the midsection becomes a focal point again, 2016 and 2017 are the least impressive because of the inevitable midsection issues. But aside from that, he may be the best in the rest. Looking at this footage, 2013 stands out the most with the best combination of mass, aesthetics and execution. Next is the abs and thighs, the pose most worth discussing in this whole comparison. Again, 2011, 2012 and 2013 are the best, with 2011 being the best of the best. 2016 and 2017 are the worst, with 2017 being the worst of the worst. We can also add 2014 to this mix, but there's a difference between 2014 and the last 2 versions. The shape of his abs looks different. I don't know if he had a surgical intervention between 2014 and 2015, but the shape of his midsection clearly changed during that time. In 2014, the shape of his abs looked like in the previous 3 years, but the midsection was distended. In 2015, the shape of his abs looked like in 2016 and 2017, but without being distended. This puts 2015 in the category of his best versions, while 2014, 2016 and 2017 are his worst. 2011 is definitely the best when it comes to the abs, and I would say 2015 is the second best. I really like that look. 2015 is the most underrated version of Phil, even by himself. He never mentions this version among his best looks, and I wonder why. On the other end of the spectrum, 2017 is definitely the worst, arguably even worse than 2018 when he lost the Olympia because of his midsection, but I digress. As you've noticed, whenever the midsection is not visible, 2017 is the best shape for Phil, but when it's visible, it's the worst shape. Anyway, let's move on to the most muscular pose. This one is a bit more difficult to follow because he didn't hit the different variations in the same manner or order each year, but Phil looked great in this pose every year. Yes, this is a front pose and the midsection plays a key role, but what made Phil most incredible in this pose is the crab variation that pretty much hides the midsection altogether. This makes his later versions more impressive due to the extra mass and muscle maturity. Personally, I like his 2013 version best in this pose, where he had the perfect combination of mass and aesthetics. What did we learn from this comparison? 2011, 2012 and 2013 remain Phil's best versions, with 2012 often being overlooked despite arguably being the most balanced of the three, thus not standing out. 2011 is the most perfect for sure, while 2013 may be his best for the extra mass and fullness he had. 2015 is the most underrated version of his, not being inferior in any way to his initial three versions. 2014 is probably overall the least impressive, but his midsection actually looked even worse in 2017. 2017 though had everything else better than in 2014 or any other version. 2016 was slightly less impressive than 2017, but his midsection was slightly better, making 2016 very strong as well. If you want an actual ranking, I would say 2013 first, 2011 second, 2012 third, 2015 fourth, 2017 fifth, 2016 6th and 2014 7th. Do you agree with my ranking? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, make sure to follow my work through all the channels I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Your collective contribution is what gives my work meaning. Last but not least, happy 4th anniversary, Supersetman.